Here we go, guys. Uneducated Economist. Could we get a round of applause here? Thank you so much for coming on. Dude, you're on fire. Man, I remember when you came on the channel with 2,200 subscribers, and you came on the show. And now you're sitting at almost 50,000 subscribers. That's a big undertaking, and I'm very grateful that you could come on the show and tell us your points of views, because you're on fire, man. And I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. Okay, so how you doing? Everything okay? Tell us.
Yeah, man, everything's going really well. Business is going really well at work. With lockdown, pretty much over, and people kind of wanting to get those projects moving and keep going. We're pretty busy at work all summer. We have been, so things are going really well there. The YouTube channel is just doing phenomenal.
It is.
It just astounds me. I never thought it would ever grow to this big.
It does. You have a very clean channel. Your channel's very clean. You don't get too political. You don't get into too much. I've got all these. If you come to the analytics and look at the back end of my channel, it's all red with video taken down, video taken down, video taken down.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the Australian housing videos that I've done.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced any backlash from YouTube or any of the content that I put out there. I found the ad placements that they decided to put on the longer videos quite annoying. I use my phone for pretty much everything,
right?
And you can't change the ad placements from your phone. You have to go to a computer,
right?
And so I have to, and so I generally upload during the day when I'm at work. And so I can't really get to YouTube to change these things around. And so I've been trying to keep those videos like between 7 and 8 minutes, if I go for a longer video, just to try to keep those ads, because I turned on one and they had like 11 ads on a 15-minute video or something.
Wow.
And I know people don't want to see that much. And so I'm almost thinking, is this YouTube trying to annoy people away from my channel?
No, I don't.
Or is it just the way they go? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I have free YouTube, so I have the YouTube. I pay the $6.75 a month, so I have no ads at all. So I don't see that. So I'm kind of lucky on that end. And I got the family package for an extra $2. So everybody in my house has no ads. So I don't see them. So I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I got some questions. All right.
Awesome.
I found something on your channel the other day from 2 weeks ago, and I want you to unpack it. It's government-funded retirement by Bill Ackman's proposal. What the hell is that? Can you explain to us? Because if it wasn't for your channel, I would have never even known that existed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I just happened to come across that headline. Now, this was the idea. If I remember right, if the ones that we were talking about, this is where at a child's birth, they put a little over $6,000 into a stock account and let that ride the entire time for the life of the person. And when they're 65, that should be somewhere over $1 million. So this is the idea that Bill Ackman has proposed. At least that's the idea behind it. Now, outside of that, I really don't know a whole lot about the inner workings of how this would be instituted, and how it would, how do you pick what stocks and all that. I don't know how any of that was going to work. All I think of is what's the outcome of something like this? And ultimately what I think of is that when somebody has this lingering out there in the distance money, they have $1 million coming to them when they're 65. The way I see people's spending behavior and the way they handle their finance, they will have that money spent far before they ever get it.
Or in fact, before they die.
They will pretty much be in debt $1 million because they know that they're going to have $1 million come. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They will have already spent it just knowing it. And a lot of it's the same game that the government plays. I think the government tries to basically dangle cheese out there in front of you with the stimulus thoughts, so that you think a check is coming, so that you'll go out there and spend, and then pretty soon they can just kind of postpone the stimulus, because they don't really need it anymore, because everybody went out there and spent their money. It's kind of the same thing. It's just like people will behave in ways that they think is going to happen, and so I think it's just more of a psychological game in the end. But anyway, that was Bill Ackman's proposal. That's my thoughts on it, as far as it goes. I don't think it would work. I think that in the end, like, if everybody has $1 million and $1 million isn't worth that much.
Well, if everyone, like if with inflation, if everyone has $1 million, obviously it's not going to be worth much at all, right? So, okay, I wanted to ask you of the depletion of the 401ks, and like you got many levels of pensions on the hook, like different levels of pensions on the hook. Are they just raising taxes across the board to fill these coffers? What are they doing? Because I know Chicago has 4 layers of government pension. And that's a lot of pension to fill. Now, what are they gonna do? How is the state of Illinois gonna pull something up? Like, how would they get, like, what would they put in place to keep that on track without defaulting on pensions?
They can't. I mean, there's only 2 ways. You either cut the benefit or you raise the taxes. It's the only way you can get there.
Oh, that's
I mean, they can wish and pray and, try and invest in the right opportunities. But, with interest rates as low as they are, they have very little security out there to try and find the higher, that higher return on
yield,
more sounds. Yeah. The yield on it. I mean, you can't get into government bonds, then you're taking risk after that. And that's ultimately where they go to. So they can't.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I think. I mean, unless something unforeseen comes up, I don't know. But the way it looks right now, I don't see how they could.
Okay. I want to unpack the video, Dollar Strengthening, Markets Weakening. That was a very good video. So let's, a lot of people are here to listen to the price of lumber. So price of lumber, you say it's going to drop come January in your video. Tell us, that was a really good, piece that you put together. Why it will. Explain to us.
Well, it kind of goes into a long story, but ultimately right now we are sitting in a supply shortage, and it wasn't due to any kind of extreme shock to the system other than mills had curtailed development during a time that an extreme demand came in. So if you're not familiar with the lumber shortage, what took place is that during the lockdown, mills took under the impression that there was not going to be a lot of projects. And if there's not a lot of projects being done, then they're going to hold back on their production. They don't want to be sitting on a bunch of inventory that's not selling. Right. When they did this, everybody was sitting at home, got a stimulus check, and realized, man, I would like to have a new deck or fence, or, need to start working on the house. And then all of a sudden there was this rush of people with a stimulus check sitting at home, going to the lumber yard and buying up all the pressure treated lumber to build their decks, fences, gazebos, whatever they were doing. And it depleted the supply. Now trying to fill that supply chain back up has got very difficult to handle, because pretty much it's not just a matter of just sawing logs and putting it out there for sale. There's a lot to it, because a lot of the lumber that is used nowadays is kiln dried. And this kiln dried lumber has to go through, basically it's a giant building that they put it in, and they heat that building up. So this lumber has so much capacity that they can fill into this kiln, and then it takes a certain amount of time to happen, and you can't speed that up. So it's bottlenecked right there. So there's only so much supply that can actually fill into the supply chain as they're trying to fill in this depleted inventory that took place. But something interesting that I thought of too, because I have a logging buddy who was telling me that they're not logging. And they haven't been logging a whole lot all summer long. Now, a lot of it has to do with, dry weather, and then they can't work in the woods because of fire hazards and stuff like that. But he said that he had never seen it as slow as he was experiencing this summer. And I thought that was kind of strange, that this demand for lumber, and yet there's a slowdown in the logging. And what I realized is that the sawmills actually have more than one product that they're producing outside of the lumber. They produce pulp as well. Yes. And they produce bark, and they produce a lot of other products out there. And if there's no demand for those products, then they can't keep producing lumber while this other product that they produce is not selling. And what I realized about pulp is that China was like a 25% buyer of the world, or of the United States pulp. And during this whole trade war and everything, they pretty much stopped buying a lot of pulp from us. They also stopped buying garbage, which means we here in the United States started recycling a lot more paper. So we didn't need that pulp as much even here in the United States. So it's put this backing inside of the sawmills, where they're backed up with like other products besides just the logs. And then up there in the logging industry, you can't just go up and log and just pull out the saw logs. they clear cut, they take it all, and they have to take all the biomass. And if there's no demand for this biomass, then the loggers are having issues trying to just get up there and log itself. So I realized it's this culmination of a lot of stuff that just happened to come down this summer. Raised the prices up to 900 per thousand. Now, for people who don't quite understand per thousand, that's 1,000 board feet, and they generally base it off a 2x4 green random length lumber. So $900 per 1,000 board feet is extremely high. Mm-hmm. Typically 200 to 400 would be like, say, an average. 500 would be high. 600.
So that'd be like what, $6-7 for a 2x4?
Right now we have retail prices at $8.63
American.
for a 2x4 American.
That's
for
$10
a standard
Canadian.
Yeah, and that's twice as much as it has ever been when I saw lumber at its previous high. That, like, I saw like lumber selling for like 2x4 selling for $4.30, and I went, yeah, that's crazy. That's way too high. Mm-hmm. And right now it's selling at $8.63.
Now, what effect is this having on builders that have been building through this season? Now, are they going to sell their homes for more? How are they going to take are they going to take a loss? Can you maybe explain that?
Yeah, well, luckily for the builders right now, if they have their home in completion or getting into the position of selling right now, they're going to probably do pretty well considering how hot the market is and, you know, how easy it is to seem to sell a home right now to everybody, especially in my area. I live out in a rural area, so people are just loving it here. You know, they want to buy up homes out here in the lesser condensed areas of the country. And so, in my opinion, what I'm seeing is that the builders are probably going to be sitting in a pretty good position. However, when this does roll over, they're going to be sitting in a very difficult position, considering that all the lumber that's going to be coming up for sale for the new houses being built is going to be coming in at a cheaper rate.
Right.
And as houses become cheaper to build, then, you know, you can make more profit margin off of a lesser sale. And so be it, the people who have the houses that are up on the higher end up having to take a lesser price or a lesser margin in order to compete with the new houses that are coming onto the market at a lesser cost. So that's kind of what I see during the rollover. So that's going to be very hard on a lot of builders who stretch themselves very thin already. And, anyway, that's kind of what I see on that.
Okay, so let's break down a few numbers here. And I was looking at, that was a good, take a drink, take a sip of your water there.
I've just got, sorry, I got a sore throat going on.
It's okay, buddy. This is not, we're not scripted here. Don't worry.
Smoke is back here in Oregon again. You know, that smoke from all the wildfires is clouding back into Astoria again. So it's just,
Yeah, I know. I've been tracking that from time to time, and it's pretty. Here we've been okay. Luckily, we've had a pretty clear summer up here where I'm at. But I'm only like a 7-hour drive from you, 6-hour drive.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I was hoping, that we didn't have all this crap and this border closing. You could have just come up and visit me.
Yeah, it would have been a good year for that too.
Yeah.
I mean, my boys would have looked like that.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Now, I've been doing some research, and I've been kind of looking at some numbers, and I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but correct me if I'm wrong. The Fed owns a total of 23,940, what I've found, different securities. Biggest investor. Are we seeing, my question to you is now, are we seeing a federal buyout of the private corporate sector?
You think like the Federal Reserve is buying up all the corporate?
Whatever like all the private corporate sector that exists. Federalizing it. I mean, it's a big question, but I mean, if they own 23,000, if I'm right about these numbers, and they own 23,940 different securities, they are now the world's biggest investor.
Yeah. Well, I would like to know what the securities are, I guess, because, I mean, are they talking like treasury securities and mortgage-backed securities? And,
we're talking all the other we're talking all kinds.
Well, and that's where we need to start, defining where there is that they're interjecting into the market, because really, I mean, from what I've read on the lending facilities that they set up during this whole, COVID crisis, whatever the hell they're calling it. Yeah. I mean, it just drives me nuts, because every time they talk about a recession, they have to start it off by saying it's a COVID thing. And it's just like, oh God, you guys are ridiculous. Anyhow, and when the lending facilities that they set up were built to basically cover any corner of the market. So if all of a sudden they realized that there was like no demand for car loans, they would be there to buy car loans. Okay. Right. Same thing with credit cards, same thing with like, small businesses, everybody who could possibly ever want to borrow money, they were going to be there to back it up. And the way they can't just do it. They can't just like, hey, we're going to buy credit card debt. So they have to set up a special purpose vehicle. And the special purpose vehicle is like a separate entity. It's like a separate business away from them. And then they loan those guys money. And then those guys go out there and then they buy those, they can buy those securities and whatever it is that they have like limitations to buy. The Treasury did it in conjunction. They can only do this with unusual and exigent circumstances. So This is a temporary program that they are setting up that they've already extended to the,
Well, they said that about QE1, QE2, QE3, QE Infinity, QE repo buybacks. They're calling it Operation Twist, whatever they want to call it. So it's always changing the narrative,
Right. And so they put like an intense amount of money into these things. I mean, we're talking like hundreds of billions of dollars. That is capable to be lent through these special purpose vehicles into the economy. Some of them really like were pretty popular. Like the payroll protection program, stuff like that. Everything that happened with those things, the obvious ones, really got used well, but some of them have never been touched and hardly been touched. And like the municipal bonds and like, the Main Street lending facility where they were going to lend to small business. Some of these things, I mean, hardly like less than 1% of the money has ever been lent out through these special purpose vehicles. So it leads me to believe that a lot of this stuff was not necessary to begin with, but they needed it there for a particular reason. And that reason is that they needed the credible threat. They needed to be there to say that we will be here if it needs to be. And they had the credible threat behind it, so they actually buy stuff. So when it came to like the corporate debt, and they wanted to make sure that plenty of people were knowing that the Federal Reserve was going to buy into this corporate debt, that buying just a little bit of corporate debt triggered the investors to go out there and buy up all the corporate debt. The Federal Reserve really didn't have to do anything.
Right.
They didn't buy anything. They did a little bit, and so on the grand scheme of things, they really did nothing. They just set up the special purpose vehicle as the credible threat to get everybody to be convinced that they will do it, which they will, if they need to.
Yeah. If they needs be, but a security blanket, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a security blanket, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is, a security blanket for the investors. I mean, when you have like a guarantee that they're going to do it, then like, it's like basically saying that you can't lose. I mean, and so why wouldn't you? If the Federal Reserve says we're going to take interest rates lower, then you can pretty much guarantee that if buying a treasury, the Federal Reserve is going to say they're going to buy back from you for a better price. And so, yeah, it's like, that term, don't fight the Fed. That's where everybody is like basically sitting when, the Federal Reserve talks about all the stimulus programs and the lending facilities and all that other stuff. They're just like, hey, come march with us.
It's called kicking the can down, not down the road, kicking the can 3 blocks down, or kicking the can out of the or out of the state, is what they're trying to do and prolong. So
it's more like they're going to run up and say, hey, we're going to kick the can, but it's everybody else who did it. It's like, yeah.
So, okay.
I don't know.
Let's get into some a little bit of meat and potatoes. Markets are getting hit. I don't know if you've been noticing, but markets are getting hit. The bond market's not looking good. I mean, even the safe haven assets like the treasuries are sitting idle. Everything on the sidelines. A lot of economists have come forward and have stated that the worst must be over by now, or the worst looks like it's over. What do you have to say to that?
No, I think the worst is yet to come.
Yeah.
I think the worst is yet to come. But, and I guess it's like, when I say the worst is yet to come, the worst is yet to come for some people. Other people are probably going to do very well during, a crisis situation if they're prepared and, put in the right position for it. But as far as like being over, there would not be like so much talk about stimulus coming from the Federal Reserve saying that the government has to do something, fiscal stimulus of some sort, if there wasn't going to be like more issues down the road. I mean, basically they're saying, no, we don't need it, then everything would be fine. But they're saying that we need it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is trouble. Like this is saying like, we're having issues. We need to keep, we need to deal with that. If they were going the other way with it, then they would be saying, hey, everything is kind of going good, right? So that's my opinion about it. Like, there's no way that we have gone through the thick of it, because nothing was really fixed. It was masked over with even more debt. And so it's just a matter of time before that debt comes to, to come to show itself again. And it's going to happen a lot quicker than people think it's going to happen.
Because right now the tech stocks are looking in severe jeopardy. I've been watching a few tech stocks lately, and they're not looking very good. And I saw that the Russell 2000, it's like the weakest it has been in the last year. And it's getting, I think it's getting hit pretty hard. I think the Russell 2000 is going to get even hit harder during the election cycle and the elections. I don't see, like you said, I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I think we're just getting off the beaten path, and now we're getting lost in the woods right now, if you want to metaphorically put it that way. You know what I'm saying? Okay, let me see if I have any other questions here. Some good ones. I have one here, actually. Very, very simple question. And I've been really trying to put my mind around this, because we saw what happened in Greece and Cyprus about 8 years ago, when there was a runoff in their money supply, where people were going racing to the banks to take money out. Now they're gonna. I believe that this is my question to you: when will currency go digital? When will you think they would remove currency as a whole and start introducing negative rates? Because countries like in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, I don't know if you saw earlier in the show where I was showing that $1.8 million 100 square foot home that sold in Canada. Yeah, you should rewind and see. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll go check it out.
You should see that. And that's normal. Like, properties are selling for that much. Now, the problem is, for them to keep this going, when are they going to eliminate cash so they don't see a Cyprus runoff? And when are they going to start putting digital currency so they can implement negative interest rates? Go ahead.
Well, I don't know when that'll happen. It's just a matter of time.
Do you think it's going to happen?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's going to happen at some point. Especially if they try and, maintain the system as it's functioning as right now, where they continue to try and drop interest rates and try and keep, consumers stimulated with, more credit and stuff like that, then you have to go into negative interest rates. And so, but as far as like the timing of getting rid of cash and moving into like negative interest rates that are at our deposit level, like like when we deposit our paychecks into the bank, I can't imagine that anytime like in the near future. Like, that's out there a ways.
They might start like Germany.
Yeah,
Germany did 100,000 on any bank accounts with over 100,000 are paying interest, a negative interest. So Germany has already introduced it soft like that, and they're going to move it down, they say, to 40,000 by the end of 2021, and by 2025 they should be on all accounts.
Okay, so 5 years, right? So that's kind of a ways away. I'm not saying like 50 years away, but it's a ways out. It's not going to happen like in the next 2 years, I don't think. Mm-hmm. The Fed coin is going to be pretty obvious when it comes out. And I think that it's not going to be any kind of secret, that it's going to be pretty apparent what they're up to. So, I mean, honestly, I think it's probably going to end up coming through the stimulus packages. I think that there's going to be more than those coming into the future. I think there's going to be something that's going to be resembling like a UBI, like a universal basic income. At least, it's going to be a temporary thing, that they're going to call it. To make it function easier, they're going to use FedCoin, a cryptocurrency. That's going to be the introduction to it. And at that time, it's going to be very like casual, so to speak. Like, nobody's going to know the difference between that and cash. There's not going to be a debate about whether or not cash is, losing its value or being taken out of it. There's not going to be a hurry for it. And then eventually what's going to end up happening is that cash is going to be a nuisance for you to take to the bank or withdraw from the bank. And then that's when the fees are going to start kicking in. That's where the negative impact to your cash is going to start taking place. And so it'll basically deter you from wanting to take cash out because you're going to pay a fee, and then they're going to deter you from wanting to put cash back in because you're going to pay a fee. So it's going to deter you from wanting to have cash in general because there's going to be this fee that's attached to it. And so it'll pretty much kind of force everybody just naturally into the digital currencies.
That's what they've done. I think in Sweden and Finland, they made it very hard for you to deposit your check. And if you did, like if you're not getting paid digitally or direct deposit, people have to drive miles to get to a bank machine, and it's a headache for them. And a lot of banks have been closing down bank machine locations or teller like locations so people to avoid cash. And their excuse in that article was that it costs a lot of money to count the coins and process it and deposit it in the machines for the people. So they're creating a reason why. It seems like it's legit, but we've been doing it since millennia, right? So
yeah, and ultimately, like, I just try, like, I try and use cash as much as I can when I'm doing, like, when I tip somebody, when I'm doing, like, maybe a private, like purchasing something from somebody. I don't write them a check, I use cash to do that. And so that's really the ultimate, the only form of actually doing a transaction until now that you got like this Venmo and these PayPals and stuff like that are starting to come out there with, kind of peer-to-peer transactions, where you can just kind of transact between, you and your friends. Those things are so common now. Like I watch in the retail, world of things, and the amount of people who use some sort of digital payment is far above cash. Although there's a lot of it. I would say probably 30% of the sales are in cash, which seems to me to be a lot.
That's a lot of cash.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot of cash, considering like, and most of them are pretty small sales, I mean, $20, kind of transactions, pretty small stuff. Once they get over like 50, 60 bucks, it really drops. Like people are willing to spend like $20 cash, but the hundreds or 50s are only if they like, are spending like $1,000 and they brought it $1,000 cash. Like, it seems to be like this kind of I don't know why, but it just seems to be this kind of limit within themselves to only spend so much cash. And then after that, it goes on to this debit card or whatever. So, and I see like the younger generations, they are certainly more into using digital forms of transactions.
And they're more comfortable with debt.
They're far more comfortable with it than carrying cash. Like, it's so funny when people because I count cash back. I'm like one of the few people that actually, when I do a purchase with you, I count the change back to you, to make sure that I get it right, because, it's easy to make a mistake. And it's amazing on how many people thank me for that. Just thank me for counting the cash back to them. They say like, it's a dead thing that nobody does it. And like younger kids, like the ones at the mini mart or something like that, they just kind of throw the money back at you. They don't even know how to handle it. They don't, they don't understand it really. And
I want to add something in there. The young people, especially, I mentioned something, is they're so comfortable with debt load. Carrying so much debt. It's crazy.
Yeah, I talk to young people about their debt, and they really have this like, yeah, oh well, like, yeah.
It's gotta be
like,
paid back.
It's like they look at me as like, what's the problem? Like what do you care? What is the difference? And I'm thinking like, you don't understand, like you have this demon dragon thing that's holding you back, And they're like, well, everybody has it, no big deal, But it's just really weird. Yeah, I don't get it.
Okay. Dollar strengthening, markets weakening video you made. Dollar strengthening, markets weakening video you made, and basically we are seeing a weakening economy, a weakening dollar, but a weakening economy, but a strengthening dollar. And sitting on cash is king. And I'm with you on this, and I'm going to tell you why I'm with you, because right now the dollar index is trading at 94. And that's pretty good. It used to be trading at 91 when the dollar was losing a lot of its how do you say, drive, but now it's at 94, and then you're seeing that in the price of metals going down. And also I just don't okay, let's look at Argentina, for example. Argentina's had 3 resets in the last 10 years. 3 complete resets in the last 10 years, okay? What does everybody run to? American dollars.
right.
They've made it illegal to buy more than $200 per month in Argentina. They've made it illegal to go to Brazil, Portuguese America, into Brazil and actually buy US dollars in Brazil and bring it back to Argentina. Now they're going to outlaw buying US dollars in Argentina by 2022. That's what they're hoping to do to not. So the US dollar, I think, is still the right now the king of currency right now when it comes to places like Croatia where they're having issues there. You're seeing places like parts of Africa where people are scrounging to pick up American dollars at every angle. You know what I'm saying? If you go to places like Angola, a lot of people still trade in Angola in US dollars, believe it or not, even though they have their kazwana is what they use. There's a lot of countries, like if you go to India, you'll still find American dollars. America, I think the American cash is king. I think you're right on that. Sitting on cash is king right now, especially with weakening economies. Do you see, how do you say, big countries losing faith? I see countries losing faith in the American dollar, but I don't see the people losing faith in American dollars.
Yeah. Well, there's already kind of a movement for like a dollar de-dollarization, this global, kind of a currency to try and move away from holding, the U.S. Debt as part of their, assets. But the world pretty much functions using the U.S. dollar. There's no other system out there that even comes close to matching what the U.S. dollar can do and what it's got going right now for it. Is there other forms coming? Yeah. And is it going to eventually take over? Eventually. I mean, the dollar will not last forever. There's no currency that ever has, and there's no reason to believe that this one will either. However, right now, no matter where you go in the world, that $100 bill will be accepted just about anywhere you go.
Yeah, you can go to Iceland, Portugal, Australia. Everybody knows what a Benjamin looks like.
That's it. And so when you do a deal with a person and you are in one country and the other person's in another country and you are going to do a deal with them and you're going to sign a contract on it, you're going to do it in US dollars. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a demand for US dollars there. Now, a lot of these contracts, they're done not in like a traditional banking system that you would be recognized. A lot of these things are done in the shadow systems. So they don't even know how much demand for dollars there are.
I think we'll see a shortage of dollars still in the next couple of years.
I think there could come a time where it's not so much like how much the Federal Reserve is printing that you're worried about, is just if the Federal Reserve can print it fast enough to deal with the demand that's coming from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably where, all of a sudden you're going to start seeing a change in the way they do things, where they're trying to inject money right into the system to try and supply the world with the dollars that they are demanding. And it may not happen at a pace that's fast enough to deal with, the amount that's out there. That's a hard concept to really wrap your mind around. You should, there's a lot of YouTubers out there who do a great job talking about that whole system.
Don't worry about those guys.
I don't.
We got you tonight.
I'm just saying there's like, I'm by far no expert of it, but once you start wrapping your mind around that concept of it and you start realizing, holy crap, there's this whole world of demand for dollars out there. People are transacting using contracts as if they're dollars, but they never once ever have the dollars. And then one day the demand for dollars starts picking up and they don't want the contract anymore. They want the dollar. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think that people do not realize how big that's going to happen. And that's where like you can see some serious deflation. And yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a good response to that. Okay, so housing in your area. What's going on with the housing?
Same kind of like the same as everywhere else. There's a particular area. I don't really look at a whole bunch of houses out there as far as like where the real estate is in like the entire county. I've picked one little particular spot out of the county because I'm searching for a house in that area. And so I've really limited to what I'm experiencing just in that. But I kind of like look at it. During the lockdown, I saw pretty much 50% of this little area reduce the prices of their houses. And I thought, wow, look at that. That is amazing. And I got to talking to some real estate agents and stuff like that. They're like, nobody's looking, people who are looking to sell. There was all these excuses, but anyway, Now there's no reductions. Prices are off the charts. And I talked to a couple of guys who do spec homes, and their houses are selling for like more than what they're asking for. And so it's just like, yeah, this is a pretty hot and overly hot market. And so I mean, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense, you know, what's going on out there. And so when it doesn't make sense to me, then,
yeah,
you know, I mean, to me, it's like, you know, it's obviously running into some sort of bubble territory or something, because it doesn't, you know, when things make sense, and, then you understand it a little bit better. But, you know, this is like out of control. You know?
Here where we are, wages to housing here is like 16 to 24 times the annual income. So it's really bad where we are. Yeah,
see, I thought it was bad here. You know, that's like, you know, that's really bad. You know,
we did a show, we did a trends in the housing market about before COVID, like about 10, 11 months ago, where we had an article from the two major cities in Canada, Toronto and Vancouver. In Vancouver, you will have to work an average to high wage earning job 17 years to afford a down payment to buy a condo. And in Toronto, you have to work 22 years to put a down payment. So you go to your son and put your arm around his shoulder. Hello, son. You're going to get off to work today, and in 20 years, you'll be able to make a down payment on a condo. Like, that's how bad it's gotten here. If you want to if you want to watch some of the old trends in the housing market that I have, old episodes, you'll see why they're being taken down and why I'm getting strike down for those videos, and they're being strike down as bullying, believe it or not.
Oh, man. That's terrible. I can't imagine, like, you know, having to work 20 years. I mean, by that time, why even bother?
Move to Costa Rica.
Like, you know, it's like, you know, you saved up all this money for this down payment. It's like, oh, damn, I'm not going to put that on it. I'm going to put it on a house. I'm going to keep that. You know.
And then you got a strata fees to pay, and then you have up here in Canada and Australia and the UK and New Zealand, the patterns are pretty much the same. Insurances, like condos, like the average condo, insurance companies don't even want to insure them, because when you're paying $800,000 for a one-bedroom condo, the insurance is catastrophic for an entire complex, right? So strata companies are having a tough time. They're raising strata fees because they can't get insurances. Oh my God, it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah. See, like, you know, I mean, how come? I mean, I guess, you know, I mean, the stress and the pain can last for a long time, but I mean, can that like really last forever? I mean, that's what I'm thinking. You know, it's just like, you know, that's why being patient about the whole thing is just like, you know, you just sit back and be patient, because it's obviously just like it can't go, it can't continue, you know, forever, you know.
Well, Canada has a secret weapon: wealthy investors from China, and we've been bringing in 500,000 per year, and that's what's been offsetting our 25 million, 30 million population. You bring enough that much laundered money in, holy crap. I've read articles on the show that Canada would be in a recession if it wasn't for money laundering, and they broke down all the years and how many billions, hundreds of billions of dollars per year were laundered through different provinces. So we're screwed up here, you know. We're in a really bad. One day I'll come on your channel and I'll be on your show, and you'll see what we're dealing with in Australia and Canada and New Zealand. So anyways, okay, Uneducated Economist, we're going to take some questions. You have time for some questions?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I got time.
Okay. All right, guys, let's get some questions out there. So I'm going to just close you off here I'm going to move you off here for 1 second. Guys, Uneducated Economist, here's his channel. I want everybody to go there right now and subscribe. I'm going to put a link in the live chat. Here it is. Uneducated Economist. We have enough people watching to get him at least to 44,000 subs in the next couple of days, because there's a lot of replay on my shows. So guys, get over there. There's the link for Uneducated Economist. Please go over there and subscribe and let them know that you came from this channel. Guys, don't forget, also, this Saturday on Mike in the Night, we have Maneko64 from England. And don't forget to set your reminders for that. I'm going to give you guys that right here. There's Maneko64 next week. He's going to be on the show. Don't forget to subscribe to my Facebook fan page. I'm almost at 120,000 Facebook fans. I wish my YouTube would grow as fast as my Facebook fan page. And we got my Instagram here. And Instagram, if you guys want to follow that. And don't forget to buy a mug or something on Teespring. Uneducated Economist also has a store. I'm going to give you the link to his store. Go ahead to his store. He's got mugs. He's got cell phone covers, sweaters. Please go ahead and pick up something at his shop and support him. All right. Let's get to some questions with Uneducated Economist here. All right, I just wanted to do a little plug there for you. There you go. Everyone subscribe. Thank you for subscribing. Yes, everyone subscribing. Yes, thank you, and thank you there. I'm just reading some comments here. Okay, guys. Okay, questions. Instagram. No, not that question. Central bank collusion. Commonwealth countries. No, that's just what I was talking about. We're just catching up to, because there's about a minute and a half lag. On my videos, because they think I'm I don't know. Questions for uneducated economists. Line them up. Let's go, guys. Yeah, we're getting a lot of stuff here in the comments. People are still talking about.
So when are you interviewing Monaco 64?
This Saturday is going to be on Mike in the Night. We're going to be talking uncertain economies, and he's going to be coming on Saturday. Last week on trends in the housing market, I had Martin North from Australia. Very cool. He's a economic economist from Australia, and he was breaking it down really well for us and giving us an understanding of the whole money velocity thing there in Australia and inflation and looking at parts of deflationary areas and breaking down the whole thing. It was really good. It was a really good discussion. You should see that if you get some time. Ask economists what he thinks about what will happen to crypto when FedCoin is released.
I think, well, the crypto community doesn't really care about what's going on with the governments and their actions and stuff like that. So I think like the cryptocurrencies, like the ones that have good good teams behind them for the services that they're trying to put with them, I think those things will probably continue. I think that cryptocurrencies, I mean, I personally like cryptocurrencies. I have nothing against them. Now, heard a lot of arguments towards cryptocurrencies, and I get it. There's a lot of negativity that can come with it, but I see a lot of good that can come with it too. And I'm more like kind of an acceptor of all currencies. Like I take in cash, I take in silver, I'll take in Bitcoin, I'll take, whatever. I mean, however, I'm all about money anyway. Let's just figure this thing out. So I think the good teams with cryptocurrencies will succeed and continue to go, into the future with it, simply just because like they don't care what the rest of the world is doing. They're working on their projects,
Next question from Raleigh D. Lumber. Where is it headed?
Yeah.
You said in your last video it's going to go down, right?
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling that the supply chain will catch back up to the demand come this winter time, when things start to slow down. That at the same time, we're starting to see lumber futures start to catch back into the area in which you would find more reasonable. The September contract closed on September 15th at 900 per thousand. November contracts right now are sitting around 600 per thousand, which is still really high, but it's not the 900 per thousand that we've seen or the 650 that we experienced a couple of years ago. So, could it go back up to 900? Sure, if the demand continues to go up and, the supply is still limited. But I see the supply chain kind of picking back up a little bit now. The order file, like when you place an order, it takes 6 weeks to get the lumber. Well, when that starts to shorten up, which it's starting to do, you used to be like 6 weeks. Now it may take 5 weeks or 4 weeks, and this timing starts to shorten up. Well, then, the supply chain's filling back in again, and it's only a matter of time before, there's more supply than demand and the prices come back down. So I think that we're going to experience that probably in the next couple of months is what I'm assuming as the building season starts to wind down and we come into the winter, colder months.
Okay, we have Raven's asking, ask uneducated economist if he thinks private cryptos will be allowed once central bank digital currencies are up and running. You kind of answered that earlier. You think that it would just keep going. It's an underground thing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately allowed. I mean, it might get banned, like in the sense that you can't transact with it with banks and stores and stuff like that. Right. But again, the whole cryptocurrency was started away from that system anyway, and so that community can really care less, and so they'll transact in it anyway. So I think it'll continue to roll, no matter what.
Okay, we have what's this one here? FedCoin can't happen. Okay, it's saying FedCoin can't happen. 5% of the U.S. economy is drug dealers.
Okay.
Well, because they only deal with cash, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, drug dealers love cash. Yeah, I mean that's their ultimate currency. That's what they want. They want the U.S. dollar. But if they can, drug dealers will trade anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be money. They'll figure it out if they can gain wealth from the drugs, then they will. Now, if you're talking about like the CIA level of drug dealers, then yeah, okay, I can understand that that's going to need more cash because you can't have it traced if those guys are the ones. But that's conspiracy theory stuff, and I'm not really
Yeah.
following that kind
No,
of thing.
I know. Just questions.
You know,
Uh,
so the Fed coin is going to happen. I mean, you can see it. It's just like now how successful and how well they are at introducing it to the point that if it meets like resistance or not, that still needs to be played out. But yeah, the Fed coin's happening. It's going to happen at some point.
okay. Anna Key's asking, does UE think the Fed is just smoke and mirrors?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's all about, yeah, yes, they're a confidence game. That's it. Um, Basically, they need you to be convinced that they have a knowledge that only they can possess, and that their decisions on what they're doing with monetary policies and everything that goes with it is the right one, and you don't need to worry about it, because if you did and you followed them, then they couldn't exist to begin with. Because if everybody understood how the Fed operated, then they wouldn't even be in existence. Everybody would not use them. They would go to gold and silver or Bitcoin or do whatever. They wouldn't use the Federal Reserve if people truly understood what the Federal Reserve was. You would just naturally avoid it,
If
and then
you
it
go
would
back to its foreign entity, if you go back to if you follow the money, and a lot of good people have gotten into trouble or gotten into a lot of trouble tracing that money back, and
Well, I mean, you think about it, the entire currency is based off of somebody else's promise to pay,
right.
and the promise to pay that it's somebody else's is the governments who don't pay. They just keep taking out more debt. So your money is backed by somebody's promise, which is the U.S. government, who doesn't ever pay. They just keep rolling the debt over into more debt. And so, I mean, if that's, you want to put your entire life behind that and hold on to that currency as some kind of like store of wealth because you believe in those guys, and I say go for it. I personally am just waiting for the opportunity to move it over into something that I find is undervalued.
When do you think? I got a question for you. When do you think that America is going to go to a more transit currency that's actually backed by something? Like John Fitzgerald Kennedy in 1961-62 started to print silver coins, $50, started to have these notes that are backed by silver and stuff. He tried to ease, how do you say, the life support from the Fed back in the 60s, because he saw the military-industrial complex was getting too big. And it's kind of funny, if you look at it, how Kennedy was taken out, and then right after, you had, what's his name, Richard Milhouse Nixon, that pulled you guys off the gold standard in 1971. It's so, if you look at the events and how they took place, and how they built more of an economic currency as opposed to a gold-backed currency, in my opinion, I think it's just too expensive to go to war with a gold-backed currency. I think you have to get a lot of gold in your coffers.
Well, yeah, I mean, it forces the government to, in restraint to however much gold that they have. I mean, when you have a debt-based currency, there is no limit to spending. You can spend as much as you want. So, the gold is what anchors governments from being able to do the things that they are doing right now.
Right.
And you think about it, like the Federal Reserve, when they were introduced into the economy, when the economy was growing hot, they were there to try and add money to the supply so that they wouldn't have a deflation. Like they needed, there was more goods and services being traded, so they needed more money to be in there. So they were there to be elastic, right? Hey, we're here to make sure that there's a proper amount of currency in the system, and we promise we won't print too much. And then by the 20s, they had printed too much.
Right.
Right. By the 30s, they had to take the gold out of everybody's pockets, and they said, okay.
That was the confiscation.
The confiscation. And then they said, it was just like, okay, listen, we got all the gold. We're sorry, we screwed it up. We promise we won't print too much. Right. And then 30 years later, they printed too much, and they got to the 71 and they had to just like say, okay, too many countries are withdrawing too much gold because we've printed so much dollars out there and everybody has these dollars and they know that there's more dollars than there is gold. So if we don't do this, we're going to crash our system. Sorry, guys, we're not getting any gold.
Right.
Because we're printing too much. And now that we've done that, we promise we won't print too much. Remember Nixon had that famous, the dollar will buy tomorrow what a dollar buys today. And it just went like off into inflation catastrophe. It just took off from there. There was nothing to hold them back, and there was nothing to pull that confidence. You remember that confidence behind it that says that our money is backed by something. These guys are printed up way too much. Nobody wants this money, and they were losing it. And so they were like, okay, so now what do we do? And at one point, people were actually, because a lot of people think that like negative interest rates was just something that's new to like the banking system within the last, 10, 12 years or whatever. They like, what was it? The Swiss were charging negative interest rates to foreign depositors. Yeah. Because everybody was trying to get their money into their accounts. And it was absolutely devastating their exports as everybody was drawing in on these on their currency. It was just strengthening it up to the point that nobody could that they couldn't export their goods to anybody, and so they had to put like limitations on it by just basically charging people to deposit money with them. And the United States was sitting in a super terrible position. They actually had bonds that they were issuing that they would pay back in German Deutschmarks, right? This is how bad the United States was sitting in at this point, that nobody trusted them. And so finally they had to, by the early 80s, they're like, okay, well, the only way to solve this is to jack the interest rates way up to 15% and start getting a demand for our treasuries. And it's just been on ever since. Yeah. And so it's the early 80s, interest rates have done nothing but drop for bondholders. It's been just a dream. It's like a win-win every time. You get paid an interest rate and the bonds just keep going up in price as the interest rates drop.
It's been a party for them, for those guys. But, people losing faith in a lot of the markets right now. You're seeing quite a bit of sell-offs. And I'm seeing quite a bit of sell-offs in the last couple of days here. And
it's reasonable to think that. I mean, how fast did this market rise? And then, people are sitting up there going like, it's just like everybody around is talking about it. And if you start seeing the market start to drop, well, then you want to get out. And once the market starts picking up that momentum, it's really hard to stop it until it hits, a place where people are like going, I can't believe how cheap it is. And then it moves the other way again. And so, you just look for it. When people say that, I cannot believe how high it is, that's the time you sell. You just do what those rich guys do. You be fearful when people are greedy, be greedy when people are fearful. Buy assets that are unloved, unappreciated,
And if you don't take profits, you're gambling.
And that's right. If you don't take profits, you're gambling. See, I learned my lesson really big time. Like, that's why I changed my view about silver from an investment to a savings. And I don't invest in silver. I save in silver. Because when it was 2011, or it was before that, it was like 2009, I bought into silver. And at 2011, when it was at $50 an ounce, and I was sitting on a pile of silver, and I thought, man, I am the smartest person in the world, but I didn't sell a single ounce of it. And it fell all the way down to $13 an ounce. And I hadn't taken any money off the table and was now like completely underwater because I bought probably most of my silver in the mid 20s somewhere. And you learn a valuable lesson from that. And pretty soon you realize, okay, were you greedy or not? I mean, maybe you should have been greedy because then you would have cashed out.
Yes.
Right. But you're not. You were being fearful, or you were being whatever. You were being fearful at a time when you should have been greedy, or something. You see what I'm saying? Like you got to kind of go against what your emotions are telling you. When you see the momentum running up, and you're like, people are like, oh my God, it's 28, it's 29, it's going to 30, it's going to 35, and it's just like, yeah, I'm going to the coin store with my 35 ounces of silver and getting some cash because this can't continue. That's the kind of mentality you have to have. You can't how did Dave Morgan put it? I love silver. I want to date her, but I certainly don't want to marry her.
Right.
You know, and that's the way you got to have to feel about it. You know, it's just like, hey, you can have a lot of appreciation and love for this thing, but at some point you got to let it go. You know, and that's something you got to remember with anything, including stocks. You know, if you see the momentum changing, especially if you were like a momentum driven trader, you know, it was just like I saw it went from 1,000 to 2,000, and now it's up at 5,000. You know, it was just like, yeah, get out. You know, it's time to move
Get
on.
out, get out.
I'm a trader. I don't invest, but I do know that, you know, when I buy silver, I buy it when people are like saying that it sucks. That's when I buy.
Well, right now it's a good time to buy. I think it's down. So it's down.
It is. In fact, I was really considering it. You know, now that we're down at like, $22, $23 an ounce, you know, I haven't bought any for a while. And when it was at 27, I wasn't looking. But yeah, at 22, I am starting to look. I mean, I'd rather it be like 18. But, you know, if it's savings, then, you know, what difference does it make? It's about how many you have, not so much how much it's worth, you know.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, anything you want to add? Anything else you want to tell us? Anything? What do you got? What projects you got going on? Okay, let's get personal. All right, let's get some personal. Let's get a round of applause here. Let's get some personal with Uneducated Economist. All right. Favorite ice cream?
Okay, so favorite ice cream. We have
I take you for chocolate. I take you for a chocolate guy.
I do like chocolate, but what they have, and I don't really like the name of the ice cream because it's kind of funny sounding, but it's really good, and it's a Tillamook brand ice cream. It's called Malted Moo Shake. Ooh. By far the best ice cream I've ever had. Ooh. The only way I can describe it is old-timey. If it tastes like something that you would expect from back in the day, you know, kind of thing. Really good, very creamy taste, has little tiny chips of chocolate in it. It's awesome stuff. And it's not like vanilla, it's just like ice cream flavor. I don't know.
Okay. Favorite sport?
So, I haven't been into sports for a while, but when I was growing up, I loved baseball. My old man and I used to sit around and watch the Boston Red Sox all the time.
I took you for a baseball guy.
I was a big fan of baseball, but yeah, I've kind of fallen out of sports over the last few years. I haven't really been paying much attention to any of that, but yeah, baseball was my game.
Yeah.
I used to.
All right, yeah. Personal. Let's get personal.
I'm sitting with the old man cheering that on.
Longest job. What's your longest job?
So, yeah, the longest job is my current one right now. This is well, let's see. I started in 2012. So I'm going on 8 years. Before that was my first job that I had, which was 6 years, 8 months, and 22 days. I couldn't believe I actually remember the exact length of it because that was the the first lumber yard I worked for that shut down. And when they shut down, I went and found my job application in the file and saw what day I filled it out because that was the day I was hired. And so, yeah.
Okay, long-term goal. What's your biggest long-term goal you're working towards? I know you set goals. What's your long-term?
You know, I do set goals. My goals are more like guidelines than they are really goals. You know, I found that I've tried to set up a lot of goals in the past, and you know, I fail. You know, and that happens. So it's not like it's not like never try, never fail. But like if it's some of my goals that I'm looking forward to, I now that I'm out of debt, because, you know, for those of you who I just recently within the last year have gotten out of debt. So, and I have nothing to show for my past debts or anything else. So I'm pretty much starting at scratch at 44. It would be nice to have some property. I would like to have chickens and ducks and goats and, you know, have my farm back. My wife had a really nice big garden. So that's kind of one of my dreams, and I'd like to do that in a time because I have a 6-year-old child right now, and it would be cool if the boys could be raised out on a little hobby farm or something like that. So that's one of my goals. If I was to have one, that would be it, and I would like to achieve that, you know, within the next few years if I could, while the kids are still young. The other goal, I guess, is to continue working on this channel. That's kind of a new one. I never really thought about like trying to progress this channel into bigger avenues. You know, I just pretty much do out my daily videos, try to keep them kind of consistent and the same. And but I'm thinking, like, you know, it would be nice if the Uneducated Economist maybe had a had a broader range to it. And so I've been kind of, throwing that around, that I might try and work on a little bit more of bringing the Uneducated Economist up to a higher level.
You will. It'll take time. It'll take time.
It does.
Like for me,
and that's the thing. Like, I want to be patient, and I don't want to ruin anything about the channel, because it's going so well that, like, I don't want to mess with it.
Don't mess with it.
I just want to do I just want to do what I do. But it would be nice if, like, I was a little bit more active on, like, say, Patreon or Twitter, or maybe one of the other social media sites. I just found that I have such a hard time just trying to keep up with all the comments and the emails that I get just from YouTube, that, trying to take on another social media is just like, I just don't, like, have the time for it.
Yeah.
So, it would be like a commitment of time is really what it would end up doing on that. And then other than that, like, it would be nice to achieve some sort of retirement goal. Like, try and, like, I mean, like, not really knowing a whole lot about, like, financing, like being a financial advisor. Like, I understand, like, a lot about money, but, like, just like anybody, it's a guess, and you're trying to understand the trends, just like you're saying, just like you study all the time yourself. You're trying to understand the trends and then move in that kind of trend direction. But, like, there's people out there who really understand how to take, like, a monthly income and be able to save that in a way that generates, a decent return over time. Those things, there's good people out there who know how to do that really well. And I guess probably it would be a good idea to probably talk with one of those guys to set myself up, at least in that direction. I can always, take some of my money and try and put it towards the things that I think are smart, but really, if it's like for the whole family, doing something like that might be a wise way to go about things too. So anyway, that's my kind of goals: retirement, a house, and
American
YouTube.
dream.
Yep. That would be my goals. That would be my
Ask if he likes Oregon. Where is it? If he loves Oregon in spite of the political upheaval. That's from Mitch Madden. Mitch Madden is a local on our channel.
Okay.
And he's called in a few times on Mike in the Night to update us on the riots or the That's why my channel is pretty much below the radar still. And it probably will be to the day I die. But still, what do you think of Oregon?
Yeah. So what I think of, I love Oregon. I love people. I love the weirdness of everybody. I like the friendliness, like, especially my community up here. We are a friendly group. Like, you talk to people here on the street, like, them. Like they're, like you've known them for years. Everybody here is very cool and chill and awesome. So I love Oregon. As far as the political upheaval, I don't pay attention. I'm sorry. I don't. I mean, if it says anything that has to do with a protest up in Portland, if it has to do with, some kind of rioting or looting or picketing or demonstration or anything to do with that, I turn it off, because I am not interested. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I spend so much time trying to research economics, and that stuff is so frustrating to watch. I mean, it is so, like, it just occupies your mind. You look at these people with anger, and it's not like it's. First, I don't think it's really healthy to even
It's
watch.
manufactured anger.
I mean, and besides, my gut hurts enough just studying the money. I don't want to look at those guys.
Yeah.
But that's my thing about it. So yes, I love Oregon. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, and I love my community up here.
Yeah. Well, when this COVID thing gets wrapped up or something next summer, I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna go down probably to maybe Northern California somewhere. I'll stop in where you are, Astoria. I'll stop around that area. Maybe we can meet up for a coffee or something. And
yeah, man, that would be awesome.
If you ever come up to Canada, please come and check. I'm only a 7-hour drive from you, right? So,
so it seems so short, man. It doesn't seem very far.
No. If you have a good your car you could be here in 7 hours, and that's doing the speed limit. So
right.
Yeah. So sure. I'd appreciate to hang out a bit. A lot of people passing through on their way to either stateside or to Vancouver, to the coast where I am in the interior. They always stop at my store to see me. So
do they?
Yeah, I'm very accessible. So I get anywhere from 2 to 6 people a day visit me. and they come in and they want to take a selfie with me or stuff, and you know, so we do reach people out there, believe it or not. We do.
That's pretty cool because you know, because a lot of people from the community like are really starting to reach out and say, hey man, you know, I live in Astoria, I've been watching you for quite a while, and so I didn't realize how big of a fan group I actually have here locally. Well, the other day I'm on the phone, I'm at work, I'm on the phone, I'm, you know, running my sale, and I hear this guy who's like, hey, hand this to Simon. And I kind of look up from my, you know, my phone call, and I'm listening to the phone, and I see this guy, and I can't tell who it is because we got mask on. He's got his hat on, and I just really can't even imagine his face right now. And so he hands something over to the girl who was working the counter, and she goes over and puts it on my desk, and it's a $50 bill and an Eisenhower dollar, not a silver dollar, but just an Eisenhower dollar. And I thought, just out of the blue, just some guy just like, hey man, you know, it's like giving me a thank you, giving me a tip. He just come by and just drop that off. I have customers now who out of the blue will ask me, it's just like, hey, what do you think about this, that, and the other thing? And I'm like, in the middle of my sale, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, you know, and I'll kind of give them my opinion real quick, and they're like, okay, that's what I thought too. And they walk out like I have no idea who they were.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's like, so that's a lot of fun. That's neat to see. I never really expected like that kind of thing to happen either, you know, just kind of random people coming by and you know, giving me thank yous and, you know, wanting to chat real quick about economics. I had another guy give me an economics book. He was like, hey, thought you might like this, and he just dropped one off for me, and I thought, man, these guys are really cool. You know? That's
good. I'm happy that you're getting the, how do you say, the positive return, the feedback, the people, that's what it's about. It's about the people, right? And
it really is, you know, and that's what I found, like, you know, I guess that's what I really love about my channel is that, like, I wasn't really trying to create a channel. I was trying to have a conversation with people, and man, it took off, and that's what happened. And so it's just like awesome. I mean, I got what I wanted out of it. That's all I really asked for was to have a conversation, and yeah, it happened.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Well, that's it. We've been talking for a friggin' hour here.
Have we?
An hour and 7 minutes, dude.
Really? Wow.
An hour and 7 minutes. Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments here. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Everybody's having a good time. That's good. I'm happy that you made the time to come out. I know you've been busy. I know you're busy and you got lots going on. And I really appreciate the time you spent with us here. And you know, a lot of people are taking a lot away from this conversation, and hopefully they could you know, kind of, I guess, brainstorm what to do next when it comes to setting a shorter or long-term goal. What are they forecasting for their futures, right? And that's all we have is each other right now, and it's a tough time right now we're going through, whether it's financially, whether it's economically, whether it is whatever it is that the people are dealing with inside themselves, you know.
Absolutely, you know, and I have to thank you, Mike. I mean, and you know, really, I feel like you're the first one who reached out there and, you know, gave my videos a shout out, and, you know, brought me on that first interview, and it really feels like my channel took off after that. Like, you know what? It really feels like that was what got the momentum really rolling, was after that interview and that shout out you gave me.
But let me explain that to you. Let me explain to you. The reason, when I saw you, I said to myself, when I first saw you, I said to myself, holy crap, if more people knew that this guy existed, they would like this guy. And that's when I saw you. I'm like, oh, everybody will like this guy. This guy is so true to the word. Just cut to the answer. No Mickey Mousing. Just kind of looking at it from different angles. He's true. He's a real, true. He's not hiding anything. He's not, you know what I'm saying? And I said, if people only knew this, like hear this guy talking in some of his videos, they would love this guy. And that's it. It's growing. It's snowballing. It's growing. It's growing. Unfortunately, I'm on a deduction system off of YouTube. It's been like this for years for me, where if you bring me 1,000 subscribers, I'll lose 980 older subscribers I've had. And then,
yeah, I get a purging every so often. It's just like, I'm like, whoa, we're like, I sometimes I think it's something I did, because it starts off, it's like 3, 10, 20, and then all of a sudden I'm like, well, where are all these people going? And then I realize it's some kind of purging taking place.
So I got people coming on Mike in the Night saying, this is the 13th time I've been unsubscribed to your channel, and I actually have to write down all my subscriptions down on a piece of paper.
Yeah,
like for their
and I've
channels.
noticed that too. That I'll be unsubscribed from some people every once in a while, and I was like, sometimes I think I did it accidentally. Like, did I accidentally
No,
like
you didn't do nothing.
unsubscribe
No,
or
no, no. YouTube's new
no?
algorithm
Now
is
that I see it
just,
happening,
yeah. My
yeah, when
advice
I
to
see it
you,
happening, I realize it.
my advice to you
What's
is
that?
always keep your channel clean. Don't bring in
Yeah.
politics, riots, and all that garbage. Keep it clean. If you wanna talk like that kind of stuff, just come on Mike in the Night. You won't get.
Okay.
I put up videos. People send me on Skype about like lineups in this place or a Black Friday video. I put that on my channel. That's fine. I'll take the heat off it. I ain't going nowhere. I ain't breaking any rules on YouTube. But they're really hitting me for specific videos that I think have an important message when it comes to affordability, when it comes to certain things. They're really kind of deleting. I got 2 videos deleted last night, and I have all these red marks on my page when you go to my analytics.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And they're not
strange.
bad videos.
Yeah, that I mean, because you think about it, like I mean, I've seen some like terrible stuff on YouTube. It's like I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they pick on certain people. But I heard about some other YouTubers who are getting permanently banned. What was it? One of them was for talking Bitcoin.
Yeah, they're just like even people that talked about flat Earth for a while, they started getting really upset and shutting down channels. Or anybody that talked about certain things, or like I don't believe in flat Earth, but I'm saying like I mean, if somebody wants to believe it, go ahead and do what you can. But still, realistically, it's been a tough go for me. I've been doing this for what? My first channel got shut down. I reached I think 31,000 subs, and I got my subscription so fast, and that was in 2010. And I was talking about housing prices, and blah, blah, blah. And then they deleted that channel. Then I took a year off.
Sort of deleted.
Gone.
Wow.
Then in 2014, I came back. And this is the channel I have now. And it's not going anywhere in a hurry. If I could live to be like 90, I'd probably be at 30,000 subs. If I could live to 90 years old, I'll be at 30,000. It's so bad. So every time I get 100 subs, I keep 9. So when you go to the analytics on my channel, are you ready for this? Do you know how many subscribers I've had from the beginning of this year till now? -3.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, they really want to discourage you, man.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I might stumble, but still won't lose. I ain't going anywhere, man. I ain't going anywhere, man.
And I mean, at least I can say at least you have that community. You got the ones who are following you, the ones who are faithfully, and that's the way I feel about my fans too. It's just like if it wasn't for those guys who are consistently commenting, I look forward to their comments. It's almost like I feel like I got to do it for them, and if it wasn't for them, being dedicated to our channels, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So. So that's cool, man. I mean, I'm glad you had that kind of dedication to it when you.
That's all. It's about family for me. It's about loyalty, family, everyone hanging out together, being together. That's what it's about here. And YouTube, same thing. It's all about that. It's about the loyalty, being with your people, and like-minded folks. It's so nice to be in the same room with like-minded folks. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely it is.
So yeah. So that's that. I mean, yeah, it's been really good, and next week I got Mineko, so if you want to watch us, if you want to go back to the beginning of this transmission, maybe watch from the beginning, and you can see that $1.8 million house.
I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, and maybe you could make a video on that house. You'd be like, you could make 10 videos on that house because it's so much to talk about. Like, how does the average person making $58,000 a year, average earner, not minimum wage, average earner, get into any property market in the Commonwealth? You're lucky. Americans have no idea how lucky they are. They are so lucky.
When I hear you talk, it's just like I think we have it bad. Like I look around and it's just like, man, this is tough, But when I see, it's just like this is like a cakewalk compared to what you guys are doing, And so everybody's like, I guess it's just perspective on everything, I mean, so
you guys are so lucky in America. I tried so hard to immigrate to America. I lived in Florida for a few years. And I did all the paperwork, and when I went to the interview, they said, well, we're not looking for your kind right now. So they told me to apply in 5 years. So it was like, okay, never mind. I'm not going to bother. So, yeah, I paid a lawyer a lot of money. I got a company to sponsor me. I did everything. I did everything by the book. I was making sure we were running ads in different areas to make sure I wasn't stealing an American's job. I did everything by the book. And it took years. It took like 5 years, and I went to the interview. Unfortunately, we're not taking in your kind right now. It's like, okay. So that was a lot of wasted money and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, what a bummer.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. All right. Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Lots of love,
Great.
Lots of support, and lots of good graces, and you will get your farm, you'll get your land, you'll get everything you want. Eye on the prize, stay in the light, keep your target inside, and don't listen to the fools on the run, okay?
All right, man.
You have a good night. God bless you, okay?
Thank you for everything. Yeah, God bless you too.
Thank you.